What's going on? We back here on Past Speaks. I came across a video from Jason Whitlock clips, and of course the infamous Jason Whitlock. And the title of the video caught my attention as well as the thumbnail, because the thumbnail had a picture of Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee, and it said "Degenerates" with an arrow pointing to Stephen A. Smith, and the title reads "Profane." Pat McAfee created ghetto Stephen A. Smith. So I'm just want to see what type of hater ass shit that Jason Whitlock is on today. Well, I saw this clip last night and I saved it to watch this morning because I was watching some basketball games and didn't feel like looking at it. But I definitely want to see what type of hating shit this nigga Jason Whitlock is on, especially in regards to Stephen A. Smith, because he's probably Stephen A. Smith's biggest hater. And he's definitely mad that Stephen A. just got the payday that he did. As if you know the history between Jason Whitlock and Stephen A., they don't fuck with each other at all. But I think it's more so because Jason Whitlock is jealous and resentful of Stephen A., to keep it real. Like I said, I don't fuck with Stephen A. like that. I listen to his takes and you know what I'm saying, take them for what they are. I'm not somebody who cares about him personally or anybody, honestly. Any of these basketball players or any of these people's videos that I look at. I don't care that much about them. I just love talking about basketball and everything surrounding basketball. So let's see what Fat Boy is talking about in regards to Stephen A. What type of hating ass shit is he on today?
They could have set a tone for that conversation, and those guys would have elevated to Stephen A's tone. Stephen A went in there and started cursing immediately and was like, no, I'm going to come down to y'all's level. This is what you do on Gilbert Arenas' show. He went down to their level, and this is what it's talking about. He's not an elder. He's not playing his proper role as an elder statesman who has the most power in the media space, who Gilbert Arenas wants to come back on ESPN with, and he's made that very clear. Stephen A. could have elevated. Instead, he descended right down with those guys so he could show all the young people watching, man, I can get in here and have this locker room talk like these basketball players. And yeah, I know I got busted and I didn't play at Winston-Salem State, but if I had, I would have cursed and chased tail just like these athletes. I'd have been right in there. I'd be all tatted up too. That's what was important to Stephen A. rather than elevate. Your point is 1,000%.
Now,
Before this nigga goes on, he looked like Urkel right there in the picture where I just paused it, but I didn't know he had. This is the first time he's really had another black man on the show, other than that old dude when they were talking about LeBron James. But anyway, I agree with Jason Whitlock on that, man. Stephen A. was on Gil's Arena cussing and stuff, and I was like, Stephen A., what are you doing, man? And I'm like, first of all, this isn't that far removed from ESPN, bro. Like, I know that you probably think this is beneath what you do at ESPN or just ESPN period, but it's not, you know what I'm saying? It's not that far off from ESPN, man. So if you can't cuss like that on ESPN, why would you come on Gil's Arena and do it just because they do it? That's what I'm saying. So I agree with Jason Whitlock on that. He on there cussing and shit. I don't like when I hear like LeBron James do all that cussing and shit. Like, what are you doing, bro? Like, stop, man. And Stephen A. was just trying to show them that he could talk like one of the boys. And what he said he can do, the locker room talk or whatever, he did do that, bro. Because Stephen A., man, Gilbert Arenas said the other day, when they were asking him about the LeBron and situation with him and Stephen A., Gilbert Arenas was like, well, my potential boss, talking about Stephen A., because I guess, you know what I'm saying, Gilbert Arenas is trying to step it up and ascend to that next level. Stephen A., as you can see, he's already at that next level that Gilbert Arenas wants to be, and basically calling him his boss. And Stephen A's over here stooping to Gilbert Arenas' level, man. I just thought that was weird too when he was doing all that cussing on Gil's Arena. I'm like, what are you doing, Stephen A.? So I agree with Jason Whitlock, man.
now let me add a little wrinkle, Jason, because I think, again, I think both of us tend to focus in more on the Stephen A. and Gilbert Arenas podcast, right? That part of the culture. But I remember when ESPN inked Pat McAfee to his deal. Like, there were people saying, look, Why is ESPN descending into this? Because Pat McAfee, and I think it's different on YouTube.
Wow.
Right? Because it's not broadcast.
Maybe that's why, because it's not broadcast, I guess. So maybe that's why he feels he can do all that cussing and it's all good. But yeah, who is Pat McAfee, bro? Did he used to play football or like hockey or something? I don't know who Pat McAfee is. I know he does his show out of here in Indianapolis. I think that's because he has the Indianapolis backdrop on his set. So I believe he's either from Indianapolis or he does his show from out here in Indianapolis. And he does like WWE Monday Night Raw. I don't know how he does that and has his own show. It's so weird, but yeah, man. Who is Pat McAfee and where the fuck did he come from? And why is he so like significant now or whatever the case may be? I don't know. Like Pat McAfee. Man, what's that other white dude, man? I can't stand that white dude. He used to coach for IU. He has his own show. I can't stand that dude, man. But anyway, fuck Pat McAfee or whatever his name is. Fuck him.
But people who follow the media will acknowledge that the streaming and the internet stuff is eating in on the traditional media. But now what's going to happen for the sort of outsider media is that now they're going to be judged by the same standards as traditional media. So when you have someone, even if it's like, well, I'm not on ESPN doing it, I'm on my own podcast. Yeah, but now you're a part of the media. You're part of the media ecosystem, and we're going to hold you to certain standards. And when you act a particular way, we're going to call it out. And I can easily see, Jason, someone criticizing Stephen A. publicly, right? And Stephen A. saying, oh, but when Pat McAfee and the white dudes do it, then you just say, oh, they're just broing out, they're just being bros and just. But when we do it, we're thugs, we're ghetto. It's a posse, and I think that's one of those things where, yes, perception, where you sit, does sort of, influence where you stand on these issues. But I think this is a general degradation across the culture, not just specific to one particular community.
Delano, you've never.
I agree with what he just said. This is a good conversation they're having. And I agree with what he just said. Like, Stephen A, man, because Stephen A would say some shit like, well, Pat McAfee does it. Why y'all don't mind when the white boy does it, but when we do it, it's a problem, basically. And that's true in some arenas, but in regards to this Stephen A, bro, it just looks bad, man. And fuck Pat McAfee and what he does. So nobody cares just because he's white. So what, man? Do what you're supposed to do. And that's come on here and be professional, Stephen A. We hold you to a higher standard than Pat McAfee. Well, at least I do, in my opinion. I don't even know who the fuck Pat McAfee is. And he's not on the level, intellectually than Stephen A. So, Stephen A, stop trying to, like Jason Whitlock said, come down to other people's level and keep yourself elevated, man. Because, Stephen A, you are better than that, man. Whether people like you or not, Stephen A is better than that, man. And LeBron James, too, like I said, when LeBron James does all that cussing and shit, I'm like, what the fuck, LeBron? Like, come on, bro. You never heard Michael Jordan do that shit. That's the thing, like, some of the shit that LeBron James wants to be like Michael Jordan, be better, but he hasn't learned from him. Kobe didn't even do all that cussing like that, man. Kobe was kind of edgy, you know what I mean? But he wasn't cussing like LeBron James does. We're not even to make it about LeBron James. But my guy with the long beard is right. Jaleel Jr. is right, man. Pat McAfee can do what he wants, man. Stephen A has to stay elevated. And I know he didn't say that what he's saying. He was just saying hypothetically, if somebody were to call Stephen A out on that, he probably would say that, Pat McAfee's white. Y'all let him get it. And that's true. A lot of people say that, and I do see Stephen A saying that as well. But Stephen A, you better than that, man. Come on, my nigga. I just thought it was crazy when he was doing that cussing too on Gil's Arena. I swear to God, I did. That's why I'm glad I'm listening to this conversation, man.
And I'm glad you pointed this out because I was thinking, hey, they're gonna blame Donald Trump, and I was like. That's where I was like, well, I don't think Trump's profane, you know, he's politically incorrect and he's abrasive in your face. But you're right that, look, Pat McAfee, I think, curses. Again, I don't follow him closely on his show. It's not, got no problem with the show, but it's just not my cup of tea. Or I just don't have much interest there. We don't have a lot of crossover. But he curses on his own show. I believe he curses on College Game Day, sitting there with Nick Saban. He does a show on ESPN basically in a wife beater, black wife beater most days. And so all, from dress to conversation to this, it's exactly what you're saying. It's like it all.
I'm surprised he called it a wife beater and he wasn't trying to be politically correct.
And that is where Stephen A. actually feels the pressure, his competition with Pat McAfee and wanting that same type. And again, I'm telling you, it's that bro, masculine, rebellious, I don't care. And he just did an over-the-top version of it that I just happened to watching Gilbert Arenas' deal. But you're right, Pat McAfee is actually the Pied Piper who has helped Stephen A. Smith go down this path. And this is, again, where I would say Disney is to blame. They want a degenerate culture and conversation. Look at what they've done to cartoons for kids, and look what they're investing millions upon millions of dollars in, from Pat McAfee, $18 million a year, to Stephen A. Smith, $20 million a year. And both of these guys are getting more and more profane.
Right.
And I agree with that. And like he said, man, Stephen A., he's trying to prove too much, or I don't know what Pat McAfee does. I've never seen anything that he does. I saw him on Raw, WWE Raw, a couple times when I tried watching that bullshit. And I've seen shorts of him talking to like Hulk Hogan and different athletes and stuff on his show. But I didn't know that he was like a profane. But that's the thing, man. Of course, they let the white boys do that shit, man. Be edgy and profane and shit like that. Somebody like Stephen A. has to be more professional, laid back and reserved and conservative. And that's not a bad thing, man. But of course, I mean, it is what dude said is true. Like about Stephen A. Like he'll probably go and say, "Well, why the y'all let Pat McAfee do it? Why?" That's true. But at the same time, I mean, that's true that Stephen A. Smith. I do see Stephen A. Smith saying that, but at the same time, man, there is some truth in that. That, you know, white guys have their own shows. Even white women, they be wilding out to some of the shit they say, even when it's offensive to other demographics, and there's really no backlash. You know what I mean? Like a Howard Stern or that Don Imus dude. It took him to literally call some black chicks some nappy head hoes for him to get reprimanded, and I don't even think it was anything that serious. So there is some truth to that white people in mainstream media and sports media have, I would say, more leeway in the things that they say and do. And, you know, black ones don't. Black sports analysts or media analysts, so to speak, or media personalities, they don't have the same freedom that their white counterparts do. And that's any aspect of life, honestly, bro. You just can't do what they do. Fuck them. But Stephen A. is still, even if he is able to, you know what I'm saying, speak like that and shit, and be profane like Jason Whitlock says, I don't think he should do it, man. Like I said, Stephen A. is better than that. He speaks well. He always looks sharp and shit on the camera. So talking like that does take away from him. I think it doesn't add value. It takes away from his value. So, but like I said, there is some truth to that. You know, Pat McAfee can probably get away with what he gets away with because he's white. Let's just keep it real. But that's no excuse for you, Stephen A., or anybody else to go and think that, oh, well, if he's doing it, then shit, I'm going to do it. Like, nah, bro. Do what you're supposed to do and do you, man.
And, you know, you can think about McAfee. Dave Portnoy, right? He has his shtick that he does.
And fuck that white boy Dave Portnoy. Because he, like I say, I'm not an Angel Reese cape or anything like that, but when Angel Reese had taunted Caitlin Clark and did all this in the 2023 National Championship, he called her a classless piece of shit. Like, bro, you doing too much. You could say she was being classless. That's still too much, because if that's classless, then Caitlin Clark is classless, because she was doing that to her opponents the whole tournament. And nobody was calling her classless or anything. But when Angel Reese's team was winning and she did that same shit to Caitlin Clark, it was a big issue and problem. And he was one of the main people that called this young lady a classless piece of shit. Like, okay, bro, you doing too much. So that's why I say, fuck that Dave Portnoy, dude. Fuck out of here with him, man.
But I just think the perceptions can be different. And one of the things I love about sports is that sports has always been a microcosm of society, right? And people bring their whole self into how they see the games. And I know if Stephen A. Smith starts to get criticism, man, what? These guys do it all the time. Nobody says anything there. But it does have a different edge to it. Now, I actually, to be quite honest, I thought that interview was going to be worse than what it was. And maybe I've just become so desensitized, and I have my standard or my expectations, I'll say it that way, my expectations for pro athletes and people in the media space are basically under the floor. So I don't expect, if I'm watching Carmelo Anthony's podcast, or if I'm watching Gilbert Arenas, or if I'm watching, Club Shay Shay, or I don't expect these guys to speak as if Tony Dungy was their wingman and they buttoned up and they cleaned it up. I don't expect that, because I think for these guys, it's like, okay, we're authentic. This is barbershop talk. This is locker room talk, and this is just how I speak when I'm just being myself. So I actually thought it was going to be worse. I thought it was going to be way more N-words. That tends to be, where I assume guys are going to go. But I do think this is part of a larger trend, and I hope we can turn it around. But if people continue to consume it, and they click, and they subscribe, and they repost, I don't see any reason why it'll turn around, short of a wholesale cultural revival, because it's such an incentive to behave that way. And one of the things, and I don't know if you caught this, Jason, in the beginning of Stephen A's interview.
And before he gets into that, he's right, man. I think he said, I thought it was going to be way more N-words. No, I don't think Stephen A is gonna come over there and just start saying it nigga like that. That would be, he would be wilding out doing that. And I know that sounds crazy because of the cussing, but the nigga word, man, as far as Stephen A using it, that would be wild. I can understand him saying damn, fuck, maybe shit, something like that. But he starts saying nigga too much, bro. That's that'll be doing too much, Stephen A. But he's right, man. Like the Carmelo Anthony show, saying, they do all those shows, man. Which there's nothing wrong with, like, like a Carmelo Anthony, the Zach Randolph, Tony Allen, the All the Smoke with Steven Jackson and your boy, what's his name, Matt Barnes. They're different. I mean, they should honestly, if they're speaking on the NBA and all that shit, they should honestly, man, it's cool to be edgy and talk your talk, but all the cussing, yeah. Especially for them being former NBA players and representing the NBA still, because you're still an ambassador of the NBA. They be on there smoking weed and shit, like they are wilding. And Gil's Arena, but they're not the caliber of player or an upper echelon player like a LeBron James. So like when LeBron James is on his show on that was on that Mind the Game shit and that barbershop, and when he's on there cussing, it just doesn't seem right for LeBron to be cussing like that, man. I'm sorry. If LeBron was a lower level NBA player, I wouldn't see a problem with it, but for the regard that he's held in and the pedestal that he's on, and he's the face of the league, you know what I mean? He shouldn't be on there cussing like that, bro. And when LeBron James does it, he seems like he's forcing it just to sound cool. Like, LeBron, man, you ain't got to do that, bro. You honestly look better when you don't cuss and you're being professional, LeBron. It's just my opinion, man. But LeBron seems like when he's on that barbershop show, he's trying too hard to be cool. Just like Stephen A was. That's why I'm bringing this up. Cause it's just like Stephen A was like kind of trying too hard on Gil's Arena, in my opinion, to be cool and to fit in. Like, you ain't gotta do that. You are better than these niggas, Stephen A, honestly, bro.
He said, and they were congratulating him on his deal, and he got his money and stuff. And maybe it's just me, maybe I'm just a regular working stiff. But when multimillionaires start talking about money, like when I hear Angel Reese go, "Oh, we need this much money, and if we don't get it, we're gonna strike." And when guys are talking about money in the same way, I'm just like, oh, that's not sort of tone deaf. But Stephen A. Smith said, when I wake up in the morning, I pick up the Wall Street Journal, I pick up the Financial Times, I pick up whatever. And I said, man, okay, Stephen A. is a well-read brother. I respect it. No, he was saying, I pick it up to see what everybody else is getting paid and what they got. And that to me is a microcosm of the problem. Everything is about the bag. And particularly in our community, we have been afflicted by this sellout spirit just on these shores alone for the better part of well over a century. It's certainly over in the last half century, where pimps, pushers, shooters, everybody is saying,
man, and this video is about to conclude, but my guy, whatever your name is, I like his talking points and where he's coming from. Well, man, you are talking to one of the biggest coons and sellouts this side of the Mississippi, however they say, bro. Jason Whitlock, he just hasn't had an opportunity to sell out. If Jason Whitlock gets the opportunity, well, you can already tell he's sold out. But what I'm saying is, you give Jason Whitlock an opportunity to make a bunch of money and do a bunch of weird and say a bunch of weird fuck shit, especially in regards to black people and black athletes, man, he'll sell out in a heartbeat, man. So you're talking to sellout number one, man. He just hasn't really had a real opportunity to. But the Jason Whitlock's disposition and his attitude, man, he's a fucking sellout for real, bro. And he ain't gotta be down with for nothing or with anything, but he just has that personality and that aura about him, man. Fucking fuck nigga to the umpteenth power, nigga. Jason Whitlock. But I do agree with some stuff he says, though.
It doesn't matter how bad the effects or the consequences on the community. As long as I get $1 and a few people around me get $1, I'm willing to say and do anything to and about our community as long as it gets me paid.
And that's Jason Whitlock, man. In a nutshell, that's Jason Whitlock. But that was a good conversation, honestly. So I can't knock Jason Whitlock too much on this clip. That was a good topic, and they both had good talking points, and that was a good conversation. So I'm glad I was able to watch this. But yeah, man, I swear I'm glad I watched this too, because I thought the same thing when I saw Stephen A on Gil's Arena, man, doing all that cussing and shit. I'm like, Stephen A, come on, bro. You are tripping, man. But we'll see what happens moving forward. I still think Jason Whitlock is a little jealous and resentful of Stephen A. That's why he's always bringing him up. I mean, that's why he made this a topic, but it was something important to talk about, man. Because I think that, the YouTube people, they're different. Like me, and I guess I do YouTube video. I'm not a YouTuber. Nobody gives a fuck about what I do. But I love doing this shit. I enjoy, talking basketball, watching these clips and stuff. But like, YouTube personalities are different, man. People like Stephen A, the Gil's Arena cast, or like I said, All the Smoke, or that Zach Randolph and Tony Allen show. Like, I still don't think they should be doing all that cussing and shit, man. I just think they should be a little bit more professional. Well, the Tony Allen and Zach Randolph and all the smoke, yeah. But Gil's Arena, I think, you know what I'm saying, if it ain't just the, you know what I'm saying, the normal damn or ass or something like that, but when they start doing all that motherfucker nigga, fuck, I do think this kind of shit, it just kind of throws me off, man. I ain't gonna lie. But yeah, man, that was a cool video, man. That's all I got.